Have you ever had an idea or a project that you just knew was going to be your best idea of all time? Then after you put your entire heart and soul into it, it became your biggest disappointment? My guest today had that very experience a few years ago. How did he handle it? Stay tuned and find out how he turned that experience into one of the most successful ventures of his life, right here on Faith on Film. Hi, welcome to Faith on Film. You know, I'm very excited about today's show because my guest today is someone that I've known for a few years and have always admired, not only because of his accomplishments and his talent, but because of his heart that he has for filmmaking with a good, positive message. So let me introduce him to you. Dallas Jenkins, son of celebrated Left Behind author Jerry Jenkins, first produced the independent feature Hometown Legend at the age of 25 and shepherded it to distribution by Warner Brothers. In the early 2000s, in the nearly 20 years, he's been around a long time, hasn't he? Since then, he has directed and produced over a dozen features and short films for companies such as Universal, Lionsgate, Pureflix, Hallmark Channel, and Amazon. His most recent film, The Resurrection of Gavin Stone, released in theaters in 2017, he is now directing and producing the largest crowdfunding media project of all time, a multi-season series about the life of Christ entitled The Chosen. Welcome to Faith on Film, Dallas. How are you today?
Good. Thanks so much for having me on, Isaac.
Sure.
I've known you for quite a while, and we've always had mutual respect, and so it's good to be on your show. I'm excited for you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, this is something that I didn't see coming at all, but suddenly here I am doing this show. Always been behind the camera. Suddenly I'm finding myself in front. But you know what? The purpose of this show is really to bring awareness about the people that are out there creating good faith and family content, getting to know who they are, what they're about, how they got started, just kind of everything behind the scenes of the people, not so much the project, but the people that are doing this. So let's take the next few minutes and just tell us all about yourself, man. How did you get started doing this?
Well, thanks. I'll try to keep it short because I don't think I'm all that exciting, but I'll give you a little bit of a background because I think it's helpful to know,
Yes.
like you said, about where storytellers are coming from
Yes.
and where our background is. I grew up, as you mentioned, the son of Jerry Jenkins, the author of the Left Behind series. He's actually written almost 200 books over the course of his lifetime.
Oh, wow.
And so I grew up in that environment of storytelling and work ethic. And so even though I was an athlete growing up and sports was my primary passion, I had this side love of storytelling and humor. My dad was always the funniest guy in the room. I was always a bit of the class clown. I was always the kind of the entertainer in whatever room I was in, good or bad. I can't speak to whether my entertainment was always welcomed, but I was certainly always trying to make people laugh, trying to tell stories. But sports was my primary passion until around my freshman year of high school. My dad, who was a big movie buff and loved movies, even though the Christian world that I grew up in was pretty negative towards Hollywood. I think, you know, in typically if you heard about the relationship between church and Hollywood, it was in the form of a boycott. But
Right.
My dad was always a little bit of an outlier. He loved movies and would start introducing me to some of the classics. Well, on television, my freshman year, I watched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson, a movie from the 1970s. And it really impacted my life. Like I watched it and I remember thinking, whatever that is, I want to do it. The emotion that movie aroused in me, I thought if I could figure out how to do that to audiences, I could really impact the world, especially if I was doing it from a faith-based perspective, because most faith-based films that I had seen growing up were really poor in terms of their quality. There's just a big difference between the movies and shows from the faith-based world. Most of them. There were some great exceptions, of course, but most of them didn't look like what I was watching on television or in the movie theater. And I thought, what if we tried to make regular movies and regular shows from a faith-based perspective that were just as good? And so that began my journey of wanting to do that. And I got started in the industry, so-called, right out of college, because right when I graduated from college, the Left Behind books were starting to really take off. And a small production company out of Louisville got the rights to do them as films. And so I went to work for them just as a low-level secretary. My job was to work till midnight, making FedEx runs at the airport and writing letters and making notes on scripts and attending meetings and all that stuff. So
we all got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So I worked my way kind of up that company for a few years. And by the time the Left Behind movie was going to be released, or at least made, actually, was funny because one of the reasons I was working for the company was I wanted filmmaking experience. But by the time the movie was getting ready to be made, my father and I had different, levels of excitement about the film. It just didn't seem like it was going in the direction that was exciting to him or to me. And so we started our own company, Jenkins Entertainment, and that's when we did Hometown Legend, which was which you mentioned in the intro, the very first film that we ever did. And we noticed in Hollywood, we would have meetings and stuff, and there were a lot of people talking about making movies, but we didn't meet a lot of people actually making them. And we thought maybe this could set us apart as if we just went and did it. I was only 25 years old. I actually hadn't even been on a set of a movie before. But we thought if we can just do it, just make a movie, at least that'll get us, seems like that'll at least set us apart from everyone else that's trying to do this. And let's just learn as fast as we can on the job. And so we did that and had the fortunate experience of getting it picked up for distribution by Warner Brothers around the world, and played on ABC Family, and it was DVD, and it even was in some theaters. So we got a nice jump start, and then that led to the next 20 years of filmmaking. And I got married, and I've had 4 kids, and so navigating through trying to build a career while also having a family has been interesting. But I've been all over the map. I lived in Los Angeles for 10 years. I worked for a church from 2010 to 2018, making movies and short films there. But that led to, somewhere around 2017, which is when my life really changed. In many ways that we'll discuss here soon. But that was the I think the beginning of it started when I first saw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and then it culminated in 2017 when The Resurrection of Gavin Stone was released, and then that ultimately led to where we're at now.
Well, I mentioned a disappointment in the teaser, and you just brought it up technically. So we're going to take a quick break right now, Dallas, and when we come back, let's talk about that film. I was going to say One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but I meant The Resurrection of Gavin Stone.
We can talk about that too.
And we'll find out why that became a disappointment, but how that actually impacted you to what you're doing now. So don't go away, everybody. We'll be right back.
Sunflowers. To pollinate and reproduce, they turn and face the sun. Nature's way of reminding us that for ultimate growth, we must seek the light. Parables. The leader in empowering entertainment. Parables. Be empowered. Start your free trial today.
Sight and Sound Theaters invites you to experience one of the most powerful Bible stories ever told.
Samson, you're going to deliver our people from the Philistines.
God gave him the strength to fight thousands.
Where does he get his strength from? Nobody's that strong.
But his greatest challenge will be living with his own choices.
Who are you?
Delilah.
We want you to find out the secret of his strength.
We will destroy Samson.
Playing in Branson for one last encore season. Get ready for a mighty adventure for the whole family.
You are my rock and my strength. Be with me today.
Samson, live on stage at Sight and Sound Theaters in Branson, Missouri.
I wonder if penguins have knees. I wonder how many colors we can't see. I wonder why there's so many stars in the universe. I wonder if we ever looked like apes.
You want to find out?
I wonder if puppies have belly buttons.
Well, welcome back to Faith on Film. We're here today with Dallas Jenkins, one of my favorite producers, and we were talking a little bit about his journey into filmmaking. But one of the things that he really got into, or that you, Dallas, got into, was of course this new movie that you did in 2017 called The Resurrection of Gavin Stone. Now, I thought it was a great movie. What was it that you felt made it a disappointment to you?
Well, not necessarily the movie itself. The fact that you liked it when you saw it was a common experience. It was just that there weren't enough of you who actually saw it. So what happened was I was working at Harvest Bible Chapel in Chicago. I'd been there for several years, and I'd made several short films and vignettes and whatnot that had actually had some moderate success. But the whole point in my being there was I had moved from Hollywood to this church to make movies. And so when I did a short film for my church's Christmas Eve service, it was called The Ride.
I remember.
And it got some attention, started to do pretty well. And a major producer in Hollywood, a guy by the name of Jason Blum, who's responsible for some of the biggest and most successful horror films of the last 10 years, everything from Insidious to Sinister to Get Out to Split. I mean, all these huge, huge successes. And he started to take interest in the faith-based filmmaking world just because he thought it was an interesting opportunity. And a mutual friend of ours got him my short film that I'd done for my church. And I was horrified that he did that, because I'm thinking, if I'm going to have a chance with a big Hollywood producer, I don't want to give him one of my church short films. But he said, well, I did it anyway. And that producer, Jason, called me and just said, I was moved. I cried. I want to be in business with you. And long story short, partnered with WWE, yes, the wrestling company, which has a filmmaking arm. So Blumhouse Productions, WWE, and our church. So we got a horror film company, a wrestling company, and a church in Chicago partnered together to make The Resurrection of Gavin Stone, which was going to be our first movie out of many. They loved The Resurrection of Gavin Stone. It screen tested higher than any movie that either of those companies had ever done. And they were really excited about the film. And so everything leading up to the release was off the charts. And we were already developing future movies. I mean, my next 10 years of my life was, as a director, was set up. I mean, I was going to do multiple faith-based films with some of the biggest production companies in Hollywood, including Walden Media, which got involved after they saw it. And they put up money for the release. And they loved it. The movie comes out opening weekend, and right away, like within the first 2 hours of the release, it was clear it was a bomb. The numbers were half of their lowest projections. I mean, it was just a total, from a box office standpoint, a failure. And so I was home alone with my wife because I just went home from work and it was just shell-shocked. And we were praying together and crying together, and the Lord impressed upon our hearts very, very powerfully. We didn't hear his audible voice, but it was as clear as if we did. The story of the feeding of the 5,000, and how he brought us to that story. And the thing that we noticed about that story that really stood out was Jesus had his disciples do everything that they didn't need him for until the only thing left was a miracle. And so he had them go find the food. He had them distribute the food. He could have done all that himself, but the miracle was his. But he had everything else be done by them. And so we weren't sure exactly what that meant or why the Lord brought that story to us so clearly. But that night at 3 a.m, I was on my computer working out all the reasons why this project went wrong. And someone texted me out of the blue from Facebook, someone I've never actually met, but someone we were just Facebook friends. And all they said was, remember, your job is not to feed the 5,000. It's only to provide the loaves and the fish. And I remember thinking, I thought maybe there was a camera on in my computer that caused this guy to know what we were talking about all day. But that moment changed my life and made me realize that the failure of The Resurrection of Gavin Stone, or the success, if it would have been successful, is not my responsibility. And that failure and disappointment led to me finding the Lord, or the Lord finding me, more than I'd ever had in my entire life. Yeah. Finding joy in the middle of those circumstances and realizing this is not my responsibility. The results are not my responsibility. I'm just to bring the loaves and the fish. And that led me to being open-minded to The Chosen, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that that project being crowdfunding, the idea of doing that via crowdfunding, which came from another company, I thought was ludicrous. I thought it was never going to work, but because I was in that position with the Lord of hands open, bringing just my loaves and fishes and letting the results go to him, are what allowed me to be open-minded to a project like that.
Yeah, well, obviously when God has a plan, doesn't matter how good it looks to us or how bad we might think it is. It's God's plan, and it's going to be successful. So I remember seeing you post that weekend that the movie came out, and you posted, I mean, you literally just poured your heart out about how you felt, and I wrote you a little something. I don't remember exactly what, but I wrote you a little encouragement.
Yeah, I remember.
And so to see what's happened now, since that time, is just completely amazing to me. In fact, we're gonna take another break, and we're gonna come back and talk about that project now, and show a little clip. I've got a little clip that you sent me, and let the people know how they can continue to help, or perhaps how they can watch the series that you're working on. So, folks, don't go away. We've got so much more with Dallas Jenkins.
I wonder how long a dolphin lives. I wonder if they can make cookies in space. I wonder when people started brushing our teeth. I wonder if people and dinosaurs ever lived together.
Want to find out?
I wonder how much a cloud weighs.
Cell reproduction, more than duplication. It's careful selection and organization, ensuring the perfect balance for development and growth. Powerful, so is our programming. Parables, the leader in empowering entertainment. Parables. Be empowered. Start your free trial today.
Welcome back to Faith on Film. We're here with Dallas Jenkins today. But before we continue, I want to show you a short clip of this project that we've been talking about here called The Chosen.
The Spirit of the Lord is upon me. He has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor.
What do you want from me?
Follow me.
So Dallas, what makes this different than every other Jesus movie that we have?
Well, first of all, it's not a movie, so that makes it actually different. There's been movies and miniseries,
right,
but there's never actually been a multi-season series about the life of Christ. So that's number one. a multi-season series really allows you to dig into the characters. This came from in 2017 after the disappointment at the box office of Resurrection of Gavin Stone. I was making a short film for my church's Christmas Eve service again. So this pattern of short films for church's Christmas Eve service leading to something bigger has continued. But it was about the life, it was about the birth of Christ from the perspective of the shepherds. And I believe you saw it, actually. I think I sent it to you, actually, almost when it was done. And while I was making it, two things happened. One, I thought this has a chance to be special. I really love this, and I really loved it, telling the stories of Christ from a different perspective and digging deeper into the characters who encountered Christ. But then secondly is when I had this idea for a multi-season show. I was binge watching other shows with my wife on Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever, and I was thinking how great it is that you can really dig into these characters.
Right.
So long story short, VidAngel, which is a popular up-and-coming streaming service, saw the short film, had a similar reaction that you had, because I know you were excited about it.
Yes.
You and I were talking about some of these things. Couldn't make it work, but they said, we believe we could raise the money for this series via crowdfunding. And I went from being excited to depressed, because I'm thinking there's just no way. This crowdfunding is what you do when you're trying to raise, $10,000 to get started on something, and it rarely works. And I had a really negative viewpoint towards it. Again, long story short, we ended up raising over $10 million from over 16,000 people around the world over the course of 6 months. And so we've already produced the first 4 episodes. They're available. By the time this airs, it'll either be, they're available now or available in a couple days. But thechosen.tv is where you can see it or see when it's going to be released. Okay. But the point is, these first 4 episodes are about to be released, and we're shooting the next 4 episodes this spring, early summer. And so season 1 in total will be available by the end of this year. So it's been an unbelievable ride. The response to these episodes has been incredible. And I think that answers your original question, which is what makes it different, is we're really able to spend time. See, most Jesus projects go from miracle to miracle, Bible verse to Bible verse, and you're seeing it from Jesus's perspective. So number one, it's hard to kind of identify with the main character because he's the sinless Son of God. But two, you're not really investing in the characters that are having their lives changed. And so we believe that this show can give audiences an opportunity to encounter Christ through the eyes of those who actually met him, and in turn be impacted in the same way that they were. And so you get a chance to get to know characters like Simon Peter and Nicodemus, and really get to understand who they are and identify with them. And then when they're transformed by Christ, it's similar to how we can be transformed by Christ. And so I think that's going to be one of the main things that sets this apart. And people will really get a chance to binge watch. I mean, when there's so many famous binge watchable shows over the last couple of years, how many of them are faith-based? I mean, I really can't think of one other than the few that have been available on some other faith-based streaming services. But something especially that's set in the time of Christ, I think, can really have an impact.
Well, obviously a lot of that has to do with economics. The money is just not there. I wish we had been able to have been a part of your project there, but we weren't financially set up for that. But God had a different plan anyway, and it's exciting that he was able to provide in the way that he knows best, and that is to involve people. Just literally, you said how many thousands of people? 100-some thousand or two? How many?
Well, no. Millions of people ended up seeing that short film that was used to raise money, but 16,000 people invested at least $100, all the way up to $200,000.
I think that's a great concept, that people are invested in this rather than just one or two investors that are coming up with a few $1 million. I think this is a great plan to have a lot of people be a part of it. Well, it's been very exciting to have you as part of this show, Dallas. I'm hoping that in some way we can help change that aspect of of Christian filmmaking, where people begin to be more excited about Christian filmmaking and the filmmakers. How can people again reach you or know more about the project?
Yeah, so if you go to thechosen.tv, www.thechosen.tv, all the information is there. All the ability to watch the first episode, the ability to watch the first 4 episodes, all of that. is all there. We're also on Facebook. We're easy to find. You just look up The Chosen on Facebook. I'm easy to find, Dallas Jenkins. And I love to interact and engage with people who are watching my work. But we really want this to be the beginning of something that lasts for a long time.
Well, great. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you're literally in the middle of post-production still, so to take the time to be with me on Faith on Film is just such an honor to me. Thank you so very much,
Isaac.
Dallas. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Have you ever considered being an actor or director of a major feature film? Sounds crazy, right? But what if God is calling you to do just that? To use your gift in a non-traditional way, like redemptive filmmaking. Let this be your pulpit. So what are you waiting for? Call now. This could be the spark that ignites your ministry.
Christian filmmaking. Our operators are standing by right now. 469-655-3222. Remember to visit our website at www.transformfilm.com.
And you learn filmmaking on 2 backlots, a first-century backlot and a small-town backlot under the watchful eyes of Christian professional filmmakers and university film school professors like Dr. Mark Kuchin. So what are you waiting for?
469-655-3222. Transformation Film Institute, a place where passion meets purpose.
This summer, come to Orlando and bring your family to the Holy Land experience, where the true heroes live. See with your own eyes the stories of the Bible come to life as you have never seen them before. Through breathtaking live stage musical productions, you and your family will encounter the true heroes of our history. Make memorable moments this summer at Orlando's premier family vacation destination, the Holy Land Experience, where the true heroes live.
Welcome back to Faith on Film. I really enjoyed our guest today, Dallas Jenkins. I want to remind you to go check out his webpage so you can keep up to date on all that's going on with his series, The Chosen. Also want to remind you to check out Parables TV, a place where you can watch all sorts of great family and faith films and documentaries and reality shows and children's shows, all kinds of great content that are good for you and the family. And of course, check out our own webpage, faithonfilmtv.com, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Faith on Film TV. So until next week, have a great week.